Hello, friends and strangers on the internet. Welcome to the Midnight Thoughts podcast. I am your host, author, and comedian, Andrew Ingram, and today, like every week, I will be reading a story from my short story collection, Midnight Thoughts. This week, we're reading The Land. The Land is very short. I think you'll have noticed if you looked at the timestamp of this episode. This is going to be the shortest episode so far. And what's more, it's maybe the story I felt most insecure about going into this book. It's straight up allegory, kind of. Straight up allegory, kind of. Whatever. We'll leave it in. I do like the story a lot. I think it'll become clear pretty early what the story's about, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But like I said, I was very insecure about this because I kind of view allegory the same way Tolkien did. It's kind of embarrassing. It's kind of embarrassing to write allegory. It feels very heavy-handed, and I was very insecure about this particular story. Now, that being said, people have specifically said this is one of their favorites in the book, and that means a lot to me because it means that I was doing something right, even though I wasn't sure I was. And I think you'll find this interesting. Somebody specifically said they read it to their kids, and their kids loved it, which is weird because there's a bad word in it that I don't think, 5 or 6 year olds should hear. But I do think it's a story that's relevant to children's lives as well as adults, and so I'm glad some kids are getting some of that good old fashioned allegory in their lives. That's who allegory's for, right? The kids. I'm rambling. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I will be back at the end for a little bit of commentary about the story we just read and for obviously all my plugs. All right. Thank you for listening. This is The Land. The Land. A rotund woman in a flower-splattered apron sat on the porch of the Book Inn crying softly. "What's going on?" I asked. "War," she said sorrowfully. "Why?" She sighed. "Everyone thinks their lot is unfair. Me, I just want to make my pies and sell them. But we're all swept up in this awful conflict now." "Really?" I said. "Wait, I have to pick a side too? Who do I pick?" A warrior galloped up on a fierce white stallion, armor gleaming, her hair flying in the wind behind her. "Stand with us," she said. "Stand against the tyranny of trolls. Stand up for the weak and defenseless, those who have less than you. It's your duty." As if on cue, a troll slinked from the shadows, sneering, leering at the warrior with lust and derision. "Oh yes, stand with them," he scoffed. "We only built this land, we only made it rich, and now the self-righteous would see us punished for every perceived slight in liberty." The warrior drew herself up in indignation, eyes flashing with anger and virtue. "Your kind act persecuted, but still hold all the power, vile though you may be." A jester somersaulted from inside the inn between the arguing pair, tweaking the troll's nose and blowing a raspberry in the warrior's direction. "It's all meaningless," he said. "Why fight? We're all food for worms after all. Just have a laugh with me instead." The warrior and troll just glared at the jester until he shuffled back into the inn and continued their fight. "What power do I have?" the twisted creature demanded. "Your kind have seen to it. Mine are scorned at every turn. My existence is purposeless and lonely thanks to your efforts to ruin my kind's good name." The old woman sighed again. "We could all just get along if only—" "Your kind holds every high office," the warrior cut in, "and most of the wealth. When you commit crimes, they are swept under the rug. And still, you disgusting, misshapen, tiny-dicked—" "Maybe we should have refrained from personal attacks," the old woman said. The troll growled and drew a wicked knife. "I will find your address and murder your whole fucking family, you fat lesbian whore." "What you doing, babe?" I look up from my phone and blink. "What'd you say, sweetheart?" My wife sees my eyes drip back towards the screen and rolls her own. "How long have you been sitting there scrolling?" I shrug. "I don't know. Half an hour? 45 minutes? There's a flame war on Facebook right now." "You've got to take a break from that thing," she said. "Do you want to help me make dinner? I got stuff for tacos." I glance back down at the phone and grimace. "Sure, babe. Sounds good." I leave it on the table and follow her into the kitchen. So that was The Land. Thank you so much for listening. Like I said, pretty heavy-handed allegory from my perspective, but people seem to have liked it, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I wrote this story shockingly around the time everyone was losing their minds about Trump getting into office, and just Facebook had become a hellhole. You'll notice most of us aren't hanging out there as much as we used to, and that's in large part because of stuff like this happening. Trolls and social justice warriors fighting, and I'm always going to be more on the side of the social justice warrior, but I think this story helped me realize that maybe social media wasn't the place where change was going to happen. And I think that's one of the cool things about art is you can learn things about yourself, about the world, and about your fellow man through fiction. And that's obviously not a perfect way to learn. It will also give you an idealized version of how things might work out. But I do think it's a great starting point before you go out there and, do the real work of learning how the world works. You can learn great ethics, great courage through stories of heroism and justice, and you can internalize that and become a better person because of the art you consume. I believe that I'm a better person because of the art I consume. Go watch Steven Universe, for the love of God. It'll make you a better person. Also, read Midnight Thoughts. Maybe it'll make you a better person. Probably not. Probably it'll just be fun. But having fun is also important. All right, enough rambling about art and such. Let's get into commerce. You can, of course, buy the book if you want to read ahead. There's a link to the Amazon, or there's an Amazon link in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram at Andrew Ingram 88, and you can follow me on Twitter at Drew Joker Ingram if you want. I'm not really doing much over there these days. It's boring now. And of course, like, follow, subscribe, tell a friend all about the show. I'm putting this out because I want people to hear what I wrote. I really like these stories, and I think other people will too, and they're not going to hear about it unless you help me out with that. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week with one of my favorite stories in the book, hands down, Losing Sleep. Goodbye.